This was a small apartment building, and they originally have a built-up roof. So built-up roof is where you have tar, felt paper, tar, felt paper, tar, felt paper. They build it up, and they put pea gravel over all of that. Back in the day, that's the way roofing was done. So a built-up roof was done that way, and it actually works really well. It's actually definitely creates a waterproof surface, but it's just not done anymore. It's very dangerous. You have to use a heat kettle, and it's very dangerous. Not really done anymore. Now we do what are called single ply and dual ply systems, sometimes even multi-ply systems. So that's what we're going over now, is a dual ply system. And so one of the problems with when you have a built-up roof is that it doesn't get damaged by hail very easily. This one got damaged by hail on some different areas, like the metals and the pipes, and we were able to show the insurance company that you really can't just do like replace those pipes, boots, and the metal without really starting to tear into the rest of the roofing. When you tear into the rest of the roofing on a built-up roof, you start to needing to replace it. So that's kind of, part of how we got a full replacement on this roof. Another thing that happened with these built-up roofs that can happen is you don't necessarily always have to replace them. We could have done a foam coat and a foam roof and then a roof coating, but we didn't go that route because you have to go by hand and clear out all the rock. The rock is also embedded into the tar. You got to clear out all that embedded tar, and you have to really, it's very labor intensive. And by the time we figured out the cost of replacing this roof, it was just really expensive. It was actually the same price. So we kind of made that argument to the insurance company, and they said, we'll pay for the replacement. So, it really worked out for the building owner here to get this paid for by insurance, and now we're getting the job done. So because we had a strong online reputation, online reviews, Google reviews, all of that, and when they Googled us, we're in the same office building. I mean, he literally came down to our office, and said, hey, I need a roof, and can you help me out? So that's how we first got this job, is just through Google, being close by, and also working really hard on our online presence. So that's important. That's just the very beginning. I mean, we've done inspection after inspection here prior to getting to this point, because we had to go back and forth with the insurance company so many times. A lot of contractors get this mixed up: profit margin versus markup. These are two very completely different things. If you don't know the difference, just check YouTube. There's a lot of videos about profit margin versus a markup. You really need to know the difference, because if you mess up your profit margin on this kind of job, you are not in a good situation, and nobody's excited to get this kind of thing done. And make sure that you put the proper profit margin on here. Anywhere between 30 to 40% of profit margin is where really you should be. So that's kind of the next step, is once you get the job, once you do your inspections, once you're kind of, figuring out what your material costs are, you have to figure out how to estimate this job. That's a lot of work, and we did all that work before ever getting paid, okay? So yeah, once we got the approval in, we sent the contract to the customer, they signed off, we had our profit margin set in. So yeah, I'll bring in a project manager, show some of the different processes. I mean, the first step obviously is a tear off. Tearing off a built-up roof is a lot of work, so you actually need a special tear-off tool to do that. So we've been tearing off about half the roof so far. You also want to tear off in sections when you're doing a roof like this. You don't want to just tear the whole thing off, leave it completely open. You get some weather come in, not a good situation. So you want to do it partial tear off. I think another thing to really be considering is, who your installers are. Making sure they're qualified installers, that they are, even certified installers. So that's gonna be very important. We're certified, so all of our installers are trained and they really know what they're doing. But sometimes when I've seen contractors who get into small commercial, and they just get anybody they can find to install it, and not a good situation there. You really want to make sure and get the right installers. So yeah, I'm bringing in John now, and we're going to talk a little bit about the actual order material for a small commercial.
Yeah. So what we do is we go off of the aerial measurements. We get the aerial measurements of the full roof, and then I take those, I break it down into what we call squares. That's a square foot area equals 1 square. And then what I do is I take all those squares, I'll gather the material that is needed for that. So 1 square will require 3 4x8 sheets of Dens deck.
John first saw this job because we had sent we were thinking about doing a roof coating on this first a Geico roof coating. We're certified with Geico to do roof coating. So I like doing roof coatings a lot. I'm actually partial to roof coatings. I prefer to do a coating rather than a replacement. But for this job, it just didn't make sense because the coat was actually the same price as a replacement, believe it or not. Usually it's half the price. But that's kind of how the way things shook out. So I had sent John over here to meet with Geico representative to see if we could coat this thing and put a 20-year warranty on it. But they were actually telling us that they're really not comfortable with that. We would need to spud the roof. So spud the roof is to just make it smooth by hand. It's extremely labor intensive, which is why it was going to be expensive. So, okay, so you met with Geico. Geico kind of told us, hey, probably not a good candidate.
Yeah, so Geico said that it was going to be a very labor-intensive project for them. At that point, we decided to go ahead and remove all the existing roofing materials and then go with the EPDM since it would cost around the same. After I met with the Geico guy, Armando tagged me in Job Nimbus to start getting the EPDM order together. And so what we did with that, going off the aerial measurements, we break the whole roof down into squares and then determine how much material for each aspect of the job we're gonna need. So how much Densdeck, how many screws, how much EPDM.
I think one thing that's important is if you have a project manager on your staff, they should know about EPDM roofing before they put together a roof order, hopefully. If not, that's where you want to use your partner or consultants to help you out. John knew about it. Can you tell us a little about your experience on an EPDM roof?
So luckily I've done a huge project up in the mountains of EPDM, so I kind of know what all components go into the EPDM. This is a much smaller project, so it was very easy to determine what materials were needed.
So that's one of the reasons I brought him on board, because he had told me about his experience doing commercial flat roof. And we've been wanting to get into commercial flat roof for a while. So when I kind of knew he had that experience, I got kind of excited. I was like, you know what? We didn't have a job right there at the moment, but I actually knew I had this in the pipeline and that we might be coming. So once we got it, I kind of, handed it over to John. He was able to kind of, take the reins, and I was a little worried, but he started schooling me, on what we needed. So you tell us a little about the screws and the plates and the Densdeck. Like, what is Densdeck versus plywood?
So Densdeck is a composite material. It's made of fiberglass and concrete, and what it does is it provides a fire rating to your roof, unlike plywood or OSB, which is just glued together wood. And
Densdeck comes in 4x4 sheets, and it comes in 4x8?
4x4 and 4x8.
4x4 and 4x8 sheets. So little detail I want to keep on, because we actually got 4x4 on this job, and we ended up having to get double up the order basically to make sure that we got enough Densdeck on it. So and that Densdeck is you have to use that when you're doing an EPDM roof replacement. So research some of Densdeck if you're not familiar with it, and learn more about that. But it is going to be important that material goes, and there's two types. There's a 1/4 inch and there's a 1/2 inch. That can change the pricing by quite a bit, depending on the pricing for Densdeck in your area. But you don't want to just put some plywood on a flat roof, commercial flat roof, and then install EPDM right over it. Would you agree with that?
I would 100% agree with that.
So that could be a big mistake. So if you're watching this video and you've gone this far, know that you should not just have plywood and then EPDM. You want to have wood, Densdeck, and then EPDM, right?
Right. And Mulehide provides a very handy pocket guide to installing EPDM. It tells you every step on how to go through installing EPDM, down to the pattern of how to install the screws and plates on the Densdeck.
Mulehide is a great product as well. We're using Carlisle on this. Carlisle is made by Firestone. Firestone's a multi-billion-dollar corporation, so they'll stand behind the warranty. It was a 20-year warranty on it. I actually had to scour the internet to find how long the warranty is on Carlisle, but just so you know, on this video, it's 20 years, and you can even do longer-term warranties if you're certified with Carlisle. So our company does a lifetime workmanship warranty. So whenever we put a roof on, we do the same warranty that the manufacturer does, whether it's 15, 20. I just tell people lifetime, and I like to kind of kid around, and they say, how long is the lifetime? I say, well, I'm a fairly young man. If I'm still alive and I put your roof on, I'm going to give you a warranty, you know, so just give me a call if you have a problem and we'll get you squared away. So I kind of say that in a joking manner, but I really mean that, because if someone has a problem with a roof that I installed and they call me, they say your roof that you did is leaking, I'm not going to start charging them to fix that roof. I'm going to stand behind it, take responsibility, and put that and fix the leak. So that's where the lifetime workmanship warranty. And if you're a contractor, I'd encourage you to do the same thing. You know, if someone calls you 10 years from now, be grateful that they remembered you and they called you, and fix the dang roof. You know, don't like try to charge them because they went beyond their 5-year warranty. Just give them a lifetime workmanship warranty. Like, don't worry about all the liability. I promise you, I've done thousands of roofs in my career. I've been called back maybe 2 or 3 times. You know, do a good job to make sure that you actually don't have to come back, and then you won't. And you know, I hear contractors tell me all the time, like, oh, well, we do entire neighborhoods, you know, and then we have all the liability for all that. I'm like, well, yeah, do a good job on the whole dang neighborhood, and then you won't have to come back. You know, give these people a lifetime workmanship warranty. So, John, let's like run through material order. You know, you already knew you needed dense deck. You needed EPDM material, you needed screws, you needed plates, you needed adhesive. What else am I missing here?
The adhesives, the cover tapes. You want to make sure you have enough cover tape to cover all of your seams. Your uncured EPDM, that is to go around any penetrations that are on the roof or protrusions. And then your seam tape that will go over all your seams, because your EPDM is only 10 foot long and we obviously have a longer span, so we have to cover those seams with the seam tape.
So one thing that a lot of people don't know is that this EPDM is used with adhesive. So you actually like use this very strong adhesive to adhere all of the material to the roof deck. One thing that this roof did not need, that's an important detail, is it did not need any a tapered insulation system, because this roof in particular has insulation in the cavity already. So we had to do that core sample. We had to cut a hole in the roof using a coring tool, and then we had to seal it back up. When we cut the roof open and looked inside, we could see the insulation. So we didn't need to do a tapered insulation system. Tapered insulation system is foam that you get that's made for roofing, and you actually have to build a slope. So this roof had a structural slope. It already had insulation in the cavity, so therefore it does not require a tapered insulation system. That tapered insulation system would give us a slope, and it would add an R value to the roof, which you have to check your jurisdiction what R value is required. Here in Denver, I want to say it's 39 R value, so that insulation system would get you an R value, plus it gets you a slope. This roof already had insulation, plus had a structural slope. Lower the cost dramatically, because that tapered system can be very expensive. If you're a building owner and someone's telling you need a tapered system, you want to verify, do I really need a tapered system, or do we have insulation in the attic, and do we have a structural slope? If you've got a structural slope and you have insulation, you may not need a tapered insulation system. Am I right?
You are correct. Yes. So on most commercial projects, there is no insulation close to the roof. So adding the ISO board, that foam insulation board, gives it that R value, the insulation. You can also order that ISO board in a tapered to give you that tapered system on the roof if the roof does not have a structural slope.
Yeah, so this roof was a little more straightforward since we didn't need that tapered insulation system. A tapered insulation system is tricky. You got to know how to put that together. I mean, you have to verify that your installers know how to put that together, because take it from me, okay? Years ago, I lost a lot of money on a job because I did not, basically everything I'm telling you here, I did it all wrong, okay? I did not estimate it correctly. I underestimated what it's gonna be because I wanted the job so badly. You know, I gave the guy, and he was a landlord. I mean, property owners, they want to save money. So he was just beating me up to the point where I just lowered it so much. I did not look at my costs and ended up going about $8,000 over budget, ended up paying a lot of money out of pocket for that job. So I learned a lot though, because one, on that job, I did not have the certified installing team that I needed. I did not have my material orders correct that I needed. I also did not do the tapered insulation right, because people did not know how to install tapered insulation. So you know, we had it all wrong, and we had to go and hire new people to do it right. So you know, please don't don't repeat my mistake that I did years ago, and you know, follow along with this video, and you can. I typically, if you're a building owner, reach out to me, and I'm happy to give you some information. If you're a contractor, find another roofing contractor in your area, or find some consultants online. There's plenty of them out there. So, so yeah, once we got the order ready, what was next?
Once we get the order ready, I like to have it delivered to the roof, as you can see here. And then we like to come out and double check the material, make sure that we don't need to go back to the supplier to get anything else. In this case, the supplier failed to deliver some of the uncured EPDM, so we did have to end up going back and get some of that uncured. But that's all steps in the process so that once the roof is going, we can be on site and managing the entire time.
Yeah, so those details as far as the uncured EPDM, the screws, let me just show you what this EPDM looks like here. 10 foot by 50 foot, so they're quite big. All the buckets of adhesive that we need.
It's very pliable. It'll go pretty much to any slope, and it's easy to install.
Well, I feel like it's easy to install if you know what you're doing, right? If you don't really know what you're doing, it's not going to be that easy to install. You can really screw it up. That's why it's so important to have, you know, installers that are vetted and that you really trust. So yeah, thanks again for watching the video. I hope it was helpful to you. I hope that you know, you really get a good job and you kind of follow along what we did here, and you know, use this video as a guideline for what you need to do to, you know, if you want to get into small commercial. And it's very exciting. I think it's very much needed. A lot of roofs out there need to get replaced. You know, just to kind of summarize it, is if you are new to it, you know, don't reach out to me. I won't be able to help you, but there's going to be some other contractors in your area. If you're a building owner, reach out to me. You know, we provide complimentary inspections. We will also, you know, do an assessment of your roof. We can even help you know if it's going to get paid for by insurance. So, so yeah, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.